Hey guys, Phil here. Before we begin, we have a special ask. Kenny, Aaron, and myself, we've been building a lot of content. We'd like to be able to share more stuff with you. And to do this, we'd really love it if you would do us a favor and go to the website, www.thiscommercelife.com, and sign up with your email. We'd like to be able to send you some extra content that we're building. And then we've heard from you that you'd like some insights on things that we've been sharing on things like SEO and social media and marketing strategies and all those sorts of things. So if you wouldn't mind going to the website and signing up, we'll be able to send you more stuff. Thanks.
Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
How are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good.
We're good. Yeah, really good. We're finally going to have some weather for the next 3 days, it sounds like.
Really?
Well, it rained. I mean, it's Vancouver anyway, where it always rains. But like, it's just been cold and wet. It feels like forever. Literally forever.
Yeah, I was there Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday for CFIG or grocery specialty.
Yeah.
It was like a monsoon Sunday
It's just
night.
freaking miserable, man. This city is so wet all the time.
But it's spring and you never get snowstorms. We got snow last night.
Well, that's the difference with you guys in Calgary. Your weather, like you can get 4 seasons in the same day. I have no idea how that city runs. That's 24/7, 365. There's no logic to your guys' weather. Like ours is just wet. At least we know we're going to be wet. But it looks like we're in for like maybe the next 10 days or so. Like we're supposed to be 20-25 to the next 3 days. And then it dips to like 17, 18, then kind of floats in that. But finally we have spring. Like typically we have, the tulips would be up, flowers, but everything's slow this year. Anyway,
Yeah.
we got nice weather finally, so I'm taking it.
And how are you, Phil?
I'm good. I don't have the same thing. We went from warm to cold. So we're back to zero. Everyone in my neighborhood is fighting the urge to put back on a winter jacket. Because we're all just like, no, if you give in, winter will stay. So everyone's like getting sick now because they're all fighting not wearing a winter jacket. It's kind of dumb.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Jeff, nice to meet you.
Jeff, nice to meet you. Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
Yeah. So I have to tell you something. I've been eating your snacks. I don't know what to call them. I think they're snacks. But I've been eating them. I think I've been making Kenny cranky because I came home. No, I guess I started just before CHFA, but I really started like every now and then I realize how many carbs I'm eating. I just need to cut them out of my life, right? But I get really, really cranky. And then you realize, like, as soon as you start cutting carbs, you realize, like, it's kind of a bleak world out there. What the hell do I eat if I'm not eating carbs, right? And then, so your snack came up, and I was like, so I buy them at Healthy Planet. And I'm pretty freaking happy, right? Like, so I've got the bars. Now I've got to hide them from the kids, right? My middle daughter's like a fitness nut. And so she was like, Daddy, this is weird. What is this, right? She's 17, right? So she's like, what is this? And I was like, just try it. And then she was like, holy crap. And then she like wolfed down the bar. And I was like, hey, can you just...
Yeah, like pull back.
These are worth it, but could you please slow down just a little bit, right? I don't want to go bankrupt on these snacks, right? Like, and now I gotta hide them from her because she finds them everywhere and eats them all. So it's anyway. I just thought I'd tell you that. I thought you might want to hear that. So
yeah. That's amazing.
They really are a fabulous product.
They really are.
I think Trudi, when we had you on for that fast one to pre CHFA. I think we even told you that, like, they're really good. So Jeff, I don't know. I think you're the one that's sort of. We'll find out as the podcast goes what behind the scenes. But like, honestly, the product's fantastic. Like, it's really tasty. The texture is. I think I was telling Trudi the first time I tried, I thought, wow, I don't know how this is. This is kind of weird because I know it says definitively, like I think on the web page, this is not jerky. But you look at it, you think, okay, it's meat. It's going to be jerky. And then you try and you're thinking, shit, this ain't
Not
jerky.
Not jerky.
And it's kind of a weird texture, but it's not an unpleasant texture. It's just not. I think your mind's thinking, no, this isn't what it was supposed to be. And yet it's really, really good, man. The flavors are awesome. I just really like them.
We're actually breaking all our own rules, right? Because usually we tell guests, do not get pitchy about the product. It's how audiences don't love it. But we actually really love the product. So I guess, I mean, technically you're not doing anything. So I guess
that's us being pitchy.
That's us being pitchy. But
okay, we can be pitchy on your behalf. So whatever.
I really appreciate the fact that you both enjoy it and your families enjoy it, and that your son Daniel loves them.
Daniel
Dano
approved.
Yeah, if Dano likes them, I'm seriously, we both do. To the point where then it's an argument of who gets what. I guess there's worse arguments it could be. So I mean, it's not that bad, but yeah, they're good.
Well,
they're very good.
I think you've set the bar now for our next flavor, and he needs to be right up there.
Oh my God. Can you imagine Dano's face on the bar? That'd be hilarious.
That's all we need.
That would be hilarious.
Oh my God. You'll have his sister all wound up. Forget it.
Oh my gosh.
We don't need it. Don't need it.
So for the listeners, we've got Trudi-Ann and Jeff on. They're going to introduce themselves in a sec, and you're going to hear a lot, but if you didn't figure it out already, we met Trudi in particular. We met Trudi-Ann as they were going to CHFA Launchpad. She came on and did a fast thought. If you haven't checked that out, we'll leave the link below. You should check that out as well. But since then, we have, clearly Kenny and I have fallen in love with the product. We love it. And we just think this is such a great story that we're pretty excited to have you guys on here. So welcome to the show. The next 45 minutes are yours. We would love to hear kind of the journey that you've taken, how you got to where you are now. We will definitely spend some more time being in love with the product for sure. But I'll kind of shut up, let you guys do some intros, and then we'll just go and see where this takes us.
Jeff, do you want to go first?
Ladies first.
Well, I'm Trudy Webster. I'm part of Thrive, and I came on when Jeff had it already created and formulated about a year in. So my role really is retail strategy and kind of the behind the scenes work, actually. Although I'm lucky enough that I get to keep the trophy.
For now.
Wait, so you get a trophy? I didn't even know you get a trophy. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's awesome.
All right. That's cool. That's cool. Wait, why do you get to keep the trophy?
Because I put it in my carry-on.
That's okay. Right, so I get possession is, I guess, 9/10 of the law or something like that. Or
I'm sure it's a shared custody thing, but
doesn't appear to be, and doesn't sound like it's going to be, but sure.
So, and then Jeff. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jeff Ball. I'm from Brant, Alberta. I call myself a farmer, but I'm involved in multiple facets of basically a family business that's 4 generations, hence the IV on in the logo. So I am the developer of Thrive Provisions, and we've been in business for about 3.5 years now. 3 years.
3 years.
Launched right in the middle of
during the pandemic. Good
pandemic. So I have some stories to tell.
It's our
first venture into the CPG world. Been involved in primary agriculture with beef cattle and fresh meat, branded beef products. And so, yeah, this is the latest and greatest brainchild of myself, I guess.
Very cool. So do you want to start from there? Because I'm kind of interested. I mean, I love anything from the land sort of story. So you're 4 generations.
Yeah.
All Alberta. Like, give me the family history of what.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of family history. My grandfather, my dad's father, he grew up in a mining town of Michelle in BC, and didn't want to become a coal miner, so he married a farmer's daughter that happened to be from this area. And he had no paradigms about what farming was, but always wanted to be a farmer. So he became a grain farmer. And then my father came along, and he hated grain farming, but liked cattle. And so he got involved in the purebred Simmental, and, had no real paradigms of what, things should be or shouldn't be. There were, I would think both of them, I would classify them as, ultimate agriculture entrepreneurs. Starting farming back during World War II was interesting to hear some of the stories of the trials and tribulations that they went through. And so I think having exposure to both of them has kind of helped me, not really conform to what I'm supposed to be doing in agriculture. So I guess that's what kind of where my entrepreneurial roots come from. And with my father, really, he encouraged me and never discouraged me to do anything, which is, it's amazing. And so I've been born and raised here my whole entire life, and raised a family here. I have 2 kids. One is active in agriculture, and we have multiple facets. So, we don't work well together, my son and I, but we both like working towards the same goal, which is, I think, very common in a family business. So, it's been kind of a business in which we've have a primary hub around here where we focus on the beef cattle production. And then over the last 25 years, I've built ancillary businesses that have complemented or worked well together in one facet or another: utilization, efficiencies, recycling nutrients, trying to build that whole backstory, kind of by default. We grow our own grain, we make sure that it's, produced properly. The byproduct from the cattle is recycled back onto the land. We use very little chemical fertilizers or sprays. We have a very good product. Then we started going to market with beef, and then offering fresh, wagyu, probably premium product, probably the largest wagyu producer in Canada for sure. An early adopter, a pioneer of that. We've been involved in the wagyu industry since 1989, I believe. So it's really been a slow burn, and the wagyu thing hasn't really taken off for us until like inside the last 10 years. And it's really become a, I wouldn't say an overnight success story, but people have, really adopted it and enjoyed the different taste that the wagyu brings. It's really a luxurious product. I mean, and if you've had it, I mean, it is indescribable. I mean, it's the only thing that I've become a little bit of a beef snob myself, and everybody else. And that's kind of how it all developed. I had the wagyu cattle around. We had the small herd. We grew them. We learned everything about how to raise them properly to maximize their characteristics that they express genetically. And so we just had them around for ourselves and for our friends and family, and then that just started to snowball. After a quick 20 years, and then we were developing the fresh meat market, fresh frozen, hotel restaurant primarily. And that took 6 or 7 or 8 years to really start getting a foothold and building a customer base. Now, the interesting thing about the Wagyu is it's non-traditional when you're talking to beef producers. They don't like the looks of them. Aesthetically, they're quite displeasing compared to our domestic cattle. So convincing other people to breed their cows to Wagyu bulls was a bit of an undertaking. The characteristics are, they just don't look very good, right? So
let me ask you something. So how did you start in Wagyu then? Like, I mean, like, what was you just decided to bring a couple cows over and just
what's a bit of the story?
Like, how do you do this? I guess I'm trying to fix. So, because you worked with your grandfather and your dad on the farm.
Yes.
All 4 generations at the time. Is your son involved, or his grandpa was still around?
Yeah.
So all 4 at one time. That was okay. That's a whole different podcast because I can imagine how that one works out. But I'm trying to figure out. So they started on a farm. They had some cattle. They did some grain or non-meat farming, and it's sort of evolved over time to a ranch that also has wheat.
So can I put this differently? So we had a guest on that started his career as a financial startup guy, and then one day they sold the financial startup, and then what he said to us on the podcast, and Kenny and I both almost fell out of our chairs. He went, "So we sold it. I didn't have anything to do, so I went to sell lumber." We both went, "What the?" Yeah, and then he was like, "Okay," and then I realized I didn't want to do that anymore, so I bought a grocery store and started an organic grocery, right? And so when you say, like, my grandfather was a agricultural farmer. No, your dad was an agriculture, so he grew weed or chickpeas or something else, and then you were like, we didn't like the generation, we didn't want to do that, so we went and like, how do you?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the line.
That's the leap, right? Like, we're trying to figure out, like, how do you just go, like, do these start like pet turtles kind of do, and you just
Plus,
go?
then you're in Alberta, right? And if Alberta likes a certain look of cow and a certain beef, so what? You just decided to go Wagyu? Why? Because you didn't like your neighbors? You didn't want anybody to talk to you anymore? Like, what was going on?
Well, I guess in a way, my dad became disillusioned with typical purebred full-blood cattle production in North America, where he says you could drag any tabby off the street with a measuring tape, and that would be the winner of the bull sale in Denver. Right?
I see.
Right.
So, and really, there was a disconnect there. I mean, we had great, beautiful, big animals, and whenever we had one to eat, I mean, I actually have to tell you, if that was beef, I mean, I wasn't going to have any part of it. Like, it was horrible.
Really?
Oh, it was just absolutely terrible.
So this is like what we call it. It's like the commercial ranch, like the modern day ranching kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you call it. There's a word for it. I just can't think of the word. But
well, just just everyday beef production. So
right.
We're talking a few years ago, right? So
right.
I'm not going to date myself, but
it's okay.
You have Kenny on the call. You're fine.
I'm probably the oldest one on the call. Don't worry about it.
If I had to eat that stuff, I would have been a quick convert to chicken and fish. Like, it was.
Wow, really? Okay.
It was really, really not pleasant.
Oh, okay.
And then when we discovered the Wagyu, and it was actually quite by accident. I mean, I guess my dad being in the full blood purebred businesses was a bit of a, he's a salesman of salesmen's, and always looking for an angle, always looking for something different, always looking for something to become better. And then stumbled across some semen that happened to be in storage in one of the breeder facilities that he works with, and it had been in storage since 1972, and it was brought over to Canada from Japan for some research purposes from another company, and they just kind of forgot about it, gave up on it. So there was all these doses of semen that had just been forgotten. And then if you know any bit about the Wagyu story, there's all grand total, there was only about 228 head of either semen, embryos, or live cattle that populate the whole rest of the world that made it out of Japan.
Oh,
So,
Really?
so when we're talking back in 1989, when Dad stumbled upon the semen, there was only actually at that point in time 4 bulls that had been out of Japan at that time. So this was the 5th bull. So he
Wow.
was, and he was called Aitotani the 7th. So he was a very unique bull, and at that particular point in time, stood to diversify the genetic pool outside of Japan quite significantly. But when you're trying to breed up percentage-wise, you're going from half to 3/4 to 7/8, and you're trying to get up to a high percentage with only 4 bulls available. You're doing a little bit of line breeding, and then what happens successively, or ultimately what happens is that there's some characteristics that aren't desirable, like fertility rates drop quite significantly once you have some line breeding going on, which, I mean, it isn't a surprise. So anyway, so Dad found this semen and he was quite excited about it, and then started promoting it. And we partnered with another breeder in Texas to, start flushing some embryos and propagating what semen we had. I believe there was only 32 doses total, so we had to be very careful. So we produced some very unique and interesting genetics in North America, in the world actually, for the first little while. And back in the day, some of these bulls were trading for 50 to 70,000 US a piece, at 6 months of age, like truly unique.
Wow.
And it was kind of an interesting time to be involved in the wagyu industry for a while, and that, and then very quickly after that, about 1998, there was a whole flush of other cattle that came out either live or genetically. They went to Australia, which is another hotbed for wagyu production, a little bit to South America and Mexico, to a small amount, and then North America, primarily into the US. And so that's what we were involved in from the very beginning. And then I didn't know what the heck it was, really. It was unique, and it was making a little bit of money. If you were in the right time, in the right space, and in the right buyers, it was quite profitable. So it wasn't for a few years that we, ended up quite accidentally I don't know how to put this gently. Anyways, we ate one of them. And it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. Like, it was a melt in your mouth, barely had to chew. You didn't even need a knife, really. You could cut it with a fork.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care what these things look like. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I've never had anything like this in my life. To the point where, a couple nights I'd be lying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning with meat sweats. And I was quite a voracious meat eater at the time. So, it was really something for someone who has been exposed to it for a long time, to have something so unique. And so, it was absolutely mind blowing. So I'm like, I have to be involved in this. I have to continue on with this. And at that particular time, I was starting up the feeding operation. So we never had any feeding operation associated with the farm. And that was kind of what I brought. My grandfather was grain farming, my dad was cows, and I had the feeding operation. It's a commercial size feed yard that is involved in, commercial beef production, obviously. And I said, well, this would complement, what I'm doing on the feeding side. If we could, produce, our wagyu cattle with our farm grain and put them in our feeding operation. And then, eventually we can sell a beef product or a meat product that, people would love to have. And, so that slowly happened, and then starting about 98, we had enough cattle to start feeding. And then early 2000s, we started, about 2000, we started selling fresh meat. And then it evolved into frozen meat, and then retail shops, and it was actually a really nice business to be involved in at that time. And so being involved in the meat business isn't like being involved in, say, like producing broccoli, where you have a head of broccoli and you sell the whole head of broccoli, or you cut it up and you sell flowerheads. It's pretty basic. Meat selling meat in meat production involves, somewhere in the neighborhood of 173 different products or different cuts. So you have your primals, which only make up about 40% of the carcass. So then you have about 60% of the rest of the carcass. I mean, the primals are everybody's obviously familiar with. You get a T-bone, you get a strip, New York strip, a rib, and a tenderloin. That's primarily it. So you get 40% of the carcass that is, everybody recognizes it's it's very easy to sell, and it's a very good eating experience. So you got 60% of the rest of the carcass no, I shouldn't say dispose, to sell.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sell it in different types. And so, we did a little bit of specializing in brisket, and then some of these shoulder cuts or chuck, individual muscles that we've identified as being a little more tender, then we could market them as specialty, it's a little bit cheaper than what the tenderloin or rib is, have similar eating experiences for less money. And then, then everybody makes ground beef. And ground beef, everybody loves ground beef. Wagyu ground beef, by the way, is just, it's top shelf. Like
it's unbelievable. I've only ever had it once, and it's unbelievable. Like somebody said that to me. They were like, "Oh, I got Wagyu." I was like, "It's ground beef. Like, I get it. The Wagyu steak. Like, I get it." And then I had it, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is just."
Yeah, it's off the charts.
There's nothing like Wagyu meatloaf on a Sunday. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, so there's underutilized cuts, and it was hard to get rid of them for the premium we needed, because our cost of production is fairly high.
And you do all your own slaughtering, butchering, whatever you call it, right? Like that's all you guys.
We at this particular time, and then we went through a toll operator, so it was being custom done.
Okay.
So then we just, we booked cattle in. We said, this is how we need them cut, packaged,
right.
And then we took the product back out of the facility.
Okay.
So that part of the production is the only one that we don't have under our control, and we're working right now. That's a whole other podcast on trying to get that within our control.
I bet.
One of the other little projects. So we had these underutilized cuts that we couldn't get like good margin out of, because our cost of production is quite higher, because it's really not produced in a traditional sense of beef production. There's the inputs that we don't give them, they're not implanted with hormones or steroids or antibiotics or all this other traditional production methods. And then we grow them slow for a long period of time so they can express their genetics maximum at time of harvest. So our cost of production is about 30% more than what we would see in our traditional beef. So trying to get full value out of these, low value cuts was very difficult. So at that particular time as well, that was happening. I was traveling quite a bit, up to about 20 weeks a year. And, airplanes, airports, trains, back and forth to Asia, a lot of traveling through the US related to agriculture. It was hard for me to get a good snack. And that isn't loaded with carbohydrates like we're talking. God, I love carbs as much as
we.
Oh my God, carbs.
Oh, carbs are.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. But I wanted something that, I could pack with me use whenever I, was convenient, or, whenever I didn't want to eat a pack of pretzels on an airplane, I could have a Thrive bar, or, a healthy snack at that time, later to become a Thrive bar. So then we started developing Thrive back conceptually, I guess that would have been about 2018.
Okay.
And then as we progressed, everything kind of just fell into place. Like we went to the Center of Excellence, which is an industry organization funded arm of Canadian Cattlemen's Association, and basically it's for beef promotion by producers, and it's funded entirely by producers across Canada. So we went to that facility and we said, hey, look, we have this concept. We need to develop something that utilizes like as much beef as possible, has really good flavor, really good texture, and is shelf stable. And they scratched their head and they were like, we don't have anything similar to that, but gosh, we would really like to help you develop this. So as what transpired was we ended up with 8 incredible recipes. The 3 of them are out now, and one's being reformulated. At that end, we didn't have a commercialized recipe that was shelf stable, but oh boy, they were good. Like the flavor, the texture. There was, we were very, I don't know. I guess I'm a bit of a fussy person when it comes to that. I wanted the real steak mouthfeel of beef, not jerky, not extruded product. Something really unique. So we spent a lot of time trying to get it right, trying to get the flavors right. Like out of those 8 recipes that we finally settled on, and I don't know how, I ate so many samples, it was crazy, like to the point where, we got to go up to Calgary and do more sampling today to pick out some more flavors. It's like, okay.
I feel so bad for you.
There's
I'm just
tragic.
I don't even know.
Dinner. It's just sampling today. So, anyways, so it was quite a process when I look back on it, and that process took about a year.
And so this utilized all those less expensive portions that were just really hard to move.
Yeah, and what makes this a little bit unique is that we focused entirely on, and still do today, whole muscle cuts. Yeah. It's not trim. It's not stuff that.
It's not a hot dog.
It's not a hot dog. Like, this is a whole muscle cut that you can distinguish exactly what it is. It's not indistinguishable, I guess, or mysterious.
That also helps keep it low in fats, but it also gives it a much better texture. That's that soft melt in your mouth texture that you get versus a jerky.
So then we had this non-commercialized recipes, and then we settled on 2 initially, and then we went to the incubator in Lacombe. No, sorry, Leduc. I get those 2 mixed up periodically. So that is a government facility that helps people develop food products. Yeah. So with CFIA, which is our Canadian Food Inspection Agency, involvement in that as well. So we went there and said, hey, we got these fantastic bars. We need to commercialize this recipe. We need to become federally and Canadian Food Inspection Agency compliant, and we need to be shelf stable. Can you help us out? And they're like, man, this is a fantastic project. We'd love to be involved in it. So, and we called him Craig, the meat scientist. He took this one under his wing, and we became, very involved, and he became very involved in our business. This is one of the great things about the whole thing, from concept to where we are now, is everybody's really gravitated to it as a project, even from the very beginning, no matter who was involved or at what step. So anyway, we got there, and we got the product exactly the way we wanted. We got it shelf stable. We loved the flavor, and whatever we found as a fresh product, we finally got it, the commercialized recipe, so very close to being how I wanted it, I guess. So, and we've tweaked it a little bit since then, but and then we started our first production run. I believe it was the 9th or 10th of March. And then
in 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And then, the lockdown happened later.
So like literally 3-4 days before the sort of shutting down.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a bit of a bummer, but anyhow, we persevered. Like it really took a lot to try to get people to.
Well, how do you do it at that point, though? Because we know we went through it. Groceries didn't close, etc. But that's great. They stayed open, and we went, but we went less frequently.
Yeah,
we definitely didn't spend the time that we used to. So how do you launch a truly more impulsive type of product?
Yeah,
at a time where impulse is sort of dead.
Yeah, what I can tell you as an entrepreneur is I just endured more cash burn for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And it was difficult, even if you could meet with somebody, you couldn't in person for a period of time.
Right.
We spent a lot of time on Zoom calls and Google Meet and tried repeatedly to get it, into wherever we could. We had some early adopters, and they're still with us today. But if you're a big any chain or anything that has a bureaucracy above it or multiple facilities, they already had all their products. They weren't going to bring on any new ones, so that was, we didn't have to expend any energy doing that, right? So we were just focusing on where we could get sales. We were focusing on trying to get our website, correct. Our Amazon, that was the other thing. Through the pandemic, we had some, success selling it through Amazon, but still, it is a unique product. It's an impulse product. Unless you've tried it, it's very hard for one person to tell another one like how awesome it is. So really the strength of our success is getting it into people's hands and getting people to try it. Not unlike a lot of stuff that
right.
But that was really what we wanted to get done. And so not too long after that, Trudy came along, and she kind of cleaned up the mess that I got us into, being a complete neophyte, if I may say anything about my experience in CPGs. And I'm a little bit of a ready, fire, aim guy, as Trudy would attest to. Sometimes it's a positive, and in most times not so much. But I learned lots along the way, and I'm not afraid to try new things, and we're not afraid to say that didn't work. But I can tell you from the very beginning, when I thought of this, there wasn't one point or minute that I can tell you that I didn't think that this wasn't going to be successful. And part of being what I do today and every facet of my life is if you can't be passionate about what I'm doing or developing or in business with, it's not worth doing. Or I don't want to be involved in it because, I'm out of integrity. And integrity in my business is everything. We do a lot of stuff via handshakes, even still today.
Right.
Verbally, that's how we do it, and we trade hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars on a handshake or a telephone call. And then that's just the way it's done. And if you can't do business that way, then you don't last you don't survive in my business. The world has changed. I get that. And am I romantic a little bit about the olden days? Yeah, like everybody else in my position, you yearn for some of the simplicity of the old days, and it has crept into, you know, the complications of life now have crept into agriculture, but you know, it's for now it's hasn't fully integrated into everything that we do here. And then going forward, you know, some of the things that really excite us are, you know, what are the possibilities down the road with technology, which we've always adopted, you know, since I've been involved in the business in '93, software development, and going forward, you know, artificial intelligence, blockchain, everything else that goes along with it. You have to be innovative and you have to be diverse to survive in agriculture in the first place. So that's what we've always done.
Wow.
So can we switch gears a little? I literally, Jeff, I think we could do like 3 podcasts. Because I'm learning a lot, and so many
I find the whole industry fascinating
yeah.
too, right?
Me too. Me too.
It's really sorry. I've been jumping around to various.
No, that's okay.
No, it's all
That's
all good.
okay.
You'll hear it later. It chronologically it works, so it's all good.
Yeah. Because I think I at this point, right? Like, so I think pulling Trudy into this part, right? Like, kind of getting that sense of, you know, because I think you've hit on a couple of things that, like they seem very basic, right? But a lot of folks don't grasp that, and sometimes when you're in it, you still kind of struggle with it, right? And so, like, I think like 2 things to me that, you know, Kenny and I are not inarticulate people, but like the struggle of what to call this thing, right? Like a protein bar, like, you know, it's definitely not jerky, because jerky has this like rough, leathery feel. Like you gotta almost like, you know, like licorice, or, you know, something you gotta pull at, right? But this melts in your mouth. Like it's a whole different texture, but it's a whole new marketing problem, right? Because people literally, I mean, you heard us at the beginning. We're like, we freaking love this stuff. It has this kind of cool, funky, sort of weird, like it's just
it's like a pressed tartare. Like, it's kind of bizarre. Like, it's not a jerky. It's weird.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. It's just it's just one of those things you're thinking, I wouldn't have expected that. I'm happy, but I wouldn't have gotten there. I wasn't something I.
So between that and then the struggle of getting, you know, because I think 2 other things. One is the dollar ring of the product. Once you try it, it's not a brainer. Like, I don't go to Healthy Planet and go, oh shit, this is really expensive. I think I want this. I don't really care, right? Like, this is the product I want. I'm going to get it. It doesn't matter to me, right? It's not overly expensive.
It's not even
for
overly
any
expensive
listeners.
anyway.
It's just
in line.
Yeah. But like getting those 2 things, I think, Trudy, seems like,
especially if we put wagyu on it, because if you know the meats, if you see something, if you go to a restaurant and say, oh, we have wagyu tonight, you think, well, shit, I didn't bring $1 trillion, so I'm happy for you, but can I just have a steak?
Yeah,
you know,
or could I get a
it.
little bit of wagyu?
You know, or can you just run it by the table so I can see it? Whatever.
Smell it as it goes by.
Yeah, but it's different. We know at that point, okay, we're not talking in slight premiums. You're premium, but your price isn't that. So, you know, to me, like, even naming it like the wagyu and highlighting that, for a lot of people, they might just look at it, I can forget that. I mean, it's nice, but it's going to be out of my league, and it's not.
Well, interestingly, we still got asked, what is wagyu, when we do sampling.
Mm-hmm.
And
I get that.
Well, again, because it's still in an upper crust.
But no, well,
thing.
It's starting to make it, right? Like, so
it is, but
like,
I mean,
the influencers are all over it. The kind of like the custom chefs, the guys who are popping on TikTok and Instagram, they're all doing wagyu beefy sort of things, but it's taken a long time.
It's going to take a long time, because as soon as as soon as you go to the butcher or you go to the store, you think, holy shit, okay, well, that was interesting. Perhaps I could do the same recipe with something else. Right? Because it's still sticker shock.
It is, and it's very high end. And even if you go into some chains now, it's only been in the last year since after
Couple years,
COVID
maybe.
that they've come up with like wagyu dumplings and other appetizers that utilizes just a little bit of it so you can taste it,
And
but
that's
not
the beauty
enough
of it.
to
You
enjoy
can
it.
stretch.
Right? And yeah, being a Thrive provisions bar, it's a little different. It's because it's not jerky. And so putting together the plan to get a retailer to even look at it. First of all, there was a ton of backyard sampling that we did. We just started grassroots. It was simple. We went to golf courses that we know. We're both golfers. We asked if we could be in tournaments and hand out bars. The first production run was much larger than it should have been technically, especially with COVID. So being the optimist, then we had all these bars that we could get into people's hands. And then, taking a really close look at the market, protein bars started out being $4, $5 a bar, but with the market growing and the category growing, it got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until you can get Cliff Bar for, on promo for like $1.50.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not where we could afford to play, not with a Wagyu beef bar. So looking at it and carving out that niche of being a premium meat product, there was a definite opportunity both in the category and in the market for people looking for something that was better than just jerky. And so that's sort of where we started to play. And fortunately, when we looked at our cost of goods and when we looked at everything we needed to provide back to promote it, because people aren't going to try it if they just see it on the shelf. You need to have an incentive. And so we put together a promotional plan that allowed that and allowed for multi-purpose pricing, so multi-unit pricing, as well as we did community sampling in stores, and we still continue to do that. That hasn't stopped because, again, trial is everything. And we started to really focus our marketing on those early adopters and people who wanted a quality product that were like us, that were on the road all the time and traveling and needed a bar. And I can tell you that the first time I tried one, I was like, this is really unique and different. And if I had this before COVID, when I was on the plane all the time, it would have made my life a whole lot better and I would be 10 pounds thinner.
Right.
So it just kind of goes that way. We focused very hard on our local grocers and our local area, in part because they had a better understanding of what Wagyu was, but also because they were willing to support local products.
Right.
And that made a big difference into how fast we could grow in the market and how we could then sort of finalize how we're going to talk about it, but also where we're going to fit in the market. There were some pretty big gaffes when we went in where retailers are like, well, it's not $3.99, so people aren't buying it. And that's when the sampling came in and we begged and said, please, can we hand out bars? Can we hand them out? And we did a Stampede breakfast where we handed out bars, just full bars in Calgary to make sure everyone got one.
Even your talk is different though, because I'm trying, and I think this is probably why there's some challenges potentially with the retailer. When you say bar, right, it's a whole different world than when you say a meat product or a jerky. So even in terms of positioning or where this is going to go in a store, like where do you put it? Because I understand what you're trying to say. Like logically, like in my head right away when I saw it, I thought, okay, this has got to go next to the jerkies because it's going to be a meat product. So if you're in there, you're going to look at this. But it does actually lend quite well, not necessarily to a Cliff Bar, but into, because Cliffs are usually more carb, it's an energy bar, but more into a protein bar. But you're talking two different worlds because every single protein bar is going to be whey or soy or some other protein. It is not going to be Wagyu beef. It's not going to be any meat byproduct, never mind Wagyu. So it's hard to even slot in there. So you're trying to find the spot, because I agree with you. I personally, I could take this on a plane because I do like the protein, right? I do like, and I like meat. I feel like you have to apologize today, but I do. I enjoy meat. I have no problem with that as a snack, as opposed to a high carb, probably high sugar energy bar. but how do you get that into my head?
Yeah.
Like, how do I? Because that's a quantum leap, I think. Because I'd be thinking I'm going to take a smelly jerky onto a plane, and you're pulling it. You know, and I love jerky, but it's different. It's not something I would ever take on a plane as a snack. Because seriously, I'd be thinking, shit. You know, I got the neighbors beside me. It's like,
It's also different. I don't know how to explain this, right? But the satisfaction is different. So when you eat jerky, like if I'm on a plane, I've tried this, right? Like I've tried taking jerky on the plane, and the real honesty is I'd actually rather just go get, you know, almost like a mini charcuterie board. Like I'd rather just go get cold cuts, because I feel like you can't eat jerky all the time. You can eat it at certain times, and then you can't other times. But I have literally been able to eat yours anywhere, right? So
but it's weird because it's hard to market that to somebody.
It's really hard
so
to
easy because you can do it anywhere, and yet I don't know where you like.
It works on a podcast, but just about nowhere.
Yeah, how do you find a hole for it? It's like I think that's. I'd be thinking as a buyer, I'd be looking at thinking, well, fuck, where do you want me to put this thing?
That's great,
and that's exactly what happened. Is we wouldn't fit in the bar section for natural protein bars or energy bars.
Mm-mm.
The meat snack side is like, I don't know, you know, it's not really
logical, but.
And so we started to point out all our differences, but also that point of differentiation is the fact that you feel satiated after you eat one of these bars.
Right.
And that became crucial in explaining what it is, to the point where in some of our early marketing material and my early presentations, we actually said it's a meal replacement bar.
Oh,
jeez, that's a whole different world now. Shit.
It is, but it also is not in your standard grocery store. So that is what we looked at focusing or finding early adapters, especially with Instagram and social media, is looking at it as a meal replacement that you could do and still be on the go. Because that essentially is what it was. You know, if Jeff's on a plane and traveling and you've got to find something good to eat, you want something that keeps you full and satiated, at least until you get through, right? At least for me, it's a matter of getting through security. For other people, it's a plane ride. So it just it depends on how you want to look at it. But that was one of the key parts that created a differentiation and allowed some of the buyers to actually look at it and go, okay, it's a different product. And then we created a really nice tray pack that would fit up at the tills or on the counter so that it could be in that grab and go section.
Yeah.
Front checkout is a great, you know, because it allows
everybody wants.
I know everybody wants front checkout, so yeah, I get it. But this one actually makes sense because it allows someone to actually kind of clear that last hurdle of what this is, right? And then for the retailer, there's actually a dollar ring here. Right, like there's margin.
So it's a nice. There's a good margin, and it's a good top line contribution.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a 99 cent, and well, there are no such thing as those. It's not $1.49, $1.79 chocolate bar. It's 99 dates myself quite a bit.
Well,
2 for $9. I remember 3 for 99 a few times, but
you're right, and that was part of our go to market strategy because it is premium and it's not inexpensive to make. It's made with all natural ingredients. So there's, for example, in the maple apple blueberry, there's real blueberries in it. You can see them.
You can taste them.
And you can taste them. And it's not a flavoring or a syrup. It's the real deal. So they'll never be, well, I won't say never, but at this point, with the quality, they'll always be a premium product and not a product that's price driven.
Right.
Which
I think you need to be price driven, which is perfect, right? It still makes it difficult to sell in and to slot, right? Because it's an interesting one. I'd be struggling as a buyer to think, I mean, I could put this in 10 locations and I just don't know if any of them are really right. And yet I know if people try, they'll do it.
Yeah, and we had some misses where we tried with a convenience store chain that was gung-ho with it, and it just, nobody found it to pick it up.
Nobody would understand it.
So part of that was making sure that the packaging and the tray were counter friendly and till friendly. When we developed a shipper, which we just did this year, again, it was created to be up at the tills. So it's not as high or tall as the other ones.
Right.
You know, it's more compact for smaller footprint stores. or where they can stick it at the back next to the beef counter. A lot of stores are doing that. And it's doing quite well there. Like, it just being in that perimeter helps it get visibility. And then continuing to focus on our core values of sustainability, because that's how we're finding new clients and new customers.
Well, I think that's why I was sort of asking Jeff before, like, even in terms of how you run your whole operation, is that I think most of us who still enjoy meat byproducts or meat in general, is large scale ranching, going to Cargill and, things like that are really not where I want to be, and I don't find attractive. I'd much rather support a local rancher, a local farmer who uses potentially their own facilities, or a local butcher. Do you know what I mean? Like, that whole better way to do ranching, or better way to do, meat raising, or whatever you want to call it, I think has to come into this as well. So it's just good you're playing down that side too, because I think it's important, because there's a place for it. Not everybody's going to be vegan, right? And not everybody needs to be a complete Mediterranean. There's probably a balance in life through there. It's just trying to figure out how to make.
Yeah, the market matures. There's, consumers are voting with their wallet. They'll give us a little bit more of a premium for a differentiated product that has, good production.
I think so.
Yeah,
I do. I think the production part is going to be more and more important as the year goes on, because you're going to get more and more pressure. You know that you're in the industry. There's more and more pressure. You take up a lot of land, you take up a lot of water. There's all the other issues, but there's still a way to do this properly.
Well, I think so, and to check all the boxes, regulation pressure is real.
Sure.
All the way through, and it's a lot of work. I mean, maybe that's why there's very few people doing what I do. It's a lot of work.
Interesting.
You guys are gonna have to come back. Yeah, we could go on for days and days and days.
Right.
I guess the last thing is congrats on winning the CHFA Launchpad Award.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see what else happens. I think as you launch new flavors and things like that, like, come back and we'll definitely have you on again. But I'll reach back out. We'll figure out another time, because I feel like we just hit the tip of the iceberg. There's like a lot more.
Well, so much of the history had to be. You have to understand the whole concept before you can even get to sort of the bar. But I'd love to talk more about, or even if it's just a fast thought or something, be more. It's just, I don't know. I just find it interesting. It's a great product. So I mean, honestly, for people listening, like, it really and truly it's a really good product. It's just a really well made, tasty product. Period.
We'll put some up. I've got to go get some. I'm going on a road trip tomorrow, so I'll put some up on the This Commerce Life Instagram so you guys can see. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you both for coming on. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll tag the webpage, the website. If people wanted to contact either of you directly, is there a way to do that? Is it LinkedIn? Is it through the webpage?
You can do it through the webpage. It goes directly to a general mailbox that both Jeff and I monitor, called hello@thriveprovisions.ca.
Right.
As well. You can connect with both of us on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to chat more.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Guys, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Amazing.
You have a great day. Phil, you stick around. You two can go enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't kidding. Like, I don't think
it's a tough one. It's such a tough.
Listeners, like, if you're wondering, like, it was hard not to fan out on this one, because I actually really love the product.
And it's hard not to just let the conversation. It had to go where it went, because I don't.
Yeah. But we barely scratched the surface.
No,
like,
I
there's
know.
so many things. And then really, like, I almost want to spend another hour with just Trudy, because I think this idea of, like, because so many of these brands that we talk to, the difficulty of getting the product in a consumer's hands, right? You think of, like, Kenny and I have been consumed by just talking about even our teas, and, like, trying to make sure enough people try it, right? Because
Right.
trying it is believing it. Everyone that tries it goes, holy crap, this is great.
It's just to get to
But
that
it's
point.
the
It's
process
not
of like,
easy.
how do
Exactly.
I run around and put this in everybody's
Yeah.
mouths, literally, right?
It
So
sounds so easy. It
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
so doable, and yet it's difficult. And
Yep.
in a product like this one, where, like, seriously, I kept thinking that as a buyer. We got to get onto another call here too, but
Yeah, we do.
talking that as a buyer, like, I'm trying to slot it. It's finding the home.
It's tough. It's tough.
Anyway, folks, we got to go. We're
Yeah.
late as usual.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Ciao.